David Cameron, for the record. Immerse yourself in For the Record, where David Cameron shares an intimate look into his life and experiences as a political leader. From his early privileged childhood to the moment his political career took off, you'll journey through the pivotal points that shaped his ambitions, values, and legacy. Delve into the challenges he faced in modernizing the Conservative Party, the victories and setbacks of his time in office, and the impact of the Brexit referendum. Get ready for an enlightening and engaging exploration into the life of a dedicated public servant.
Cameron's journey to leadership. Growing up in an upper-middle-class English family, David Cameron was aware of his privileged background. His journey began in the small, exclusive boarding school Heatherdown, frequented by members of the royal family, before continuing to the prestigious Eton College. Although initially struggling academically and falling into the wrong social circles, a confrontation with his headmaster inspired Cameron to change his ways. Successful academic outcomes led to an eventual rise through the ranks of the Conservative Party and his ultimate leadership role. David Cameron's childhood had all the classic elements of an English upper-middle-class upbringing. Born into wealth, his family initially resided in the posh Kensington area of London before relocating to the pleasant village of Peasmore. Despite the affection from his loving parents, Cameron was sent off to boarding school at just 7 years old. Heatherdown, the boarding school he attended, was both exclusive and quaint. It even boasted royalty like Prince Edward among its students. The environment was an intriguing mix of modern nobility and outdated practices, such as Victorian-era group baths overseen by the headmaster. Cameron's educational journey continued to the renowned Eton College, an institution previously attended by both his father and grandfather. At Eton, Cameron initially felt unextraordinary. Losing interest in academics, he found himself pulled into the wrong crowd and developed a habit of sneaking away with friends to smoke cannabis. These excursions were far from ordinary, often involving a rented boat and an island on the River Thames as their preferred spot to indulge. Cameron's reckless behavior was short-lived, however. When the headmaster discovered and reprimanded him during a school crackdown on drugs, Cameron was spared expulsion unlike some of his friends. Instead, he faced a fine and the seemingly pointless assignment of transcribing a Latin poem from Virgil. This narrow escape and second chance inspired Cameron to seize the opportunity to improve himself. The experience served as a turning point for Cameron, who underwent a significant transformation as a student. His renewed dedication to academics brought him success at Eton, followed by a degree in politics, philosophy, and economics at Oxford. In 1988, he joined the Conservative Party's research department, gradually moving up in ranks and becoming an advisor to the then-Chancellor, Norman Lamont. Despite briefly exploring a career in business, Cameron's passion for politics remained strong. He was elected as the Conservative MP for Witney in Oxfordshire in 2001 and became the leader of his party in 2005. David Cameron's personal growth and determination ultimately led him to traverse the ranks of British politics and secure his leadership role. Cameron's modern conservatism. When David Cameron became the Conservative Party leader, he inherited an organization that was disconnected from modern Britain and severely lacking in diversity. Determined to modernize the party, he initiated changes that led to improved representation of women and minority groups. Moreover, he emphasized that his beliefs shaped modern conservatism, as showcased by his standout achievement, the legalization of gay marriage in 2013. This example of social progressivism revealed the positive influence of politics on people's lives. David Cameron stepped in as the Conservative Party leader to tackle an organization that was not only out of power for nearly a decade but also alarmingly out of touch. The party had resisted social reforms, such as addressing the gender pay gap, and held a glaring lack of representation in modern Britain. In the 2005 election, merely 17 of the 198 Conservative MPs were women, and their presence was shockingly underrepresented even in Cameron's initial team of spokespeople. Determined to modernize the party, Cameron enforced measures to diversify the selection of parliamentary candidates, yielding commendable results by 2015, 68 female and 17 non-white MPs. With a more diverse party, Cameron sought to translate modern conservatism into tangible policy changes. Legalizing gay marriage in 2013 remains one of his proudest achievements, despite his initial hesitance. Influenced by his wife's insight that love transcends gender, Cameron acknowledged that supporting gay marriage perfectly aligned with conservative values. At the 2016 Conservative Party conference, Cameron emphasized that his support for gay marriage was not in spite of his conservative beliefs, but because of them. This declaration was met with enthusiastic applause, marking the party's evolution. The law's impact was to improve thousands of lives, with over 20,000 same-sex couples choosing to marry. A personal encounter with a custodian who excitedly shared his upcoming marriage to his boyfriend exemplified how politics, despite its challenges, can profoundly change lives for the better. Family life at Downing Street. Living at 10 Downing Street, the renowned residence of the British Prime Minister, might seem like a distinct division between work and family life for some. However, for Cameron's family, the line between the two was blurred. As the leader of one of the most powerful nations, Cameron had to balance his political duties and family affairs, all while residing at the very same address. His children, no strangers to their father's high-profile guests, often played in the same halls where meetings were held, welcoming visitors without hesitation. On one occasion, when Cameron was chatting with the Chinese premier, his daughter interjected with a cheeky remark about freeing Ai Weiwei. This vibrant family atmosphere made life at Downing Street seem a little more normal. Despite the perks and privileges of living in such an iconic residence, the family faced their share of challenges. Tragedy struck early on when Cameron's first child, Ivan, was born with a rare and incurable condition called Ohtahara syndrome. As parents, they spent countless nights sleeping on hospital floors, witnessing the dedication and empathy of National Health Service nurses. Cameron tried his best to improve Ivan's quality of life, ensuring he received plenty of fresh air and was included in family outings. Tragically, Ivan passed away at the age of 6, casting a shadow of grief over the family. Through sheer strength, they gradually moved towards healing, focusing on the positive memories and cherishing what they had rather than dwelling on their loss. The Cameron family's experience provides a unique perspective into the lives of those occupying 10 Downing Street, highlighting both the ordinary and the extraordinary aspects of balancing family life and political responsibilities. Cameron's royal lessons. During his time as a British Prime Minister, David Cameron had the unique opportunity to experience weekly meetings with Queen Elizabeth II, who shared her perspectives on pressing matters. These gatherings would end up providing invaluable wisdom and reflection in his role as a leader. Their relationship would even extend outside formal meetings, allowing Cameron to gain a deeper appreciation for the royal family's enduring values and spirit of service. David Cameron's early association with royalty came in an unforgettable event when he was just a schoolboy at Heatherdown. As he read a Bible lesson at a carol service attended by the Queen herself, he stumbled and forgot the crucial, "Thanks be to God," that concludes the reading. His embarrassment was punctuated by an audible curse, but fortunately, the Queen seemed to move past the youthful mishap. Years later, while serving as the British Prime Minister, Cameron met with Queen Elizabeth II every week, following a long-standing tradition. He always prepared by watching the latest BBC headlines and consulting a horse racing expert, reflecting the Queen's broad knowledge on both current affairs and the sport. In the course of these meetings, Queen Elizabeth shared her thoughts on a wide range of issues, offering Cameron valuable guidance and insights that came from more than 6 decades of interacting with government leaders. These conversations proved invaluable for Cameron, who often found his sense of direction and resolution reinforced after speaking with the Queen. Her wealth of experience derived from holding regular discussions with 12 previous prime ministers, granting her a unique and informed perspective on all matters. Beyond formal meetings, Cameron and his wife had the occasion to spend weekends at Balmoral, the Queen's estate in the Scottish Highlands. The annual visits allowed Cameron to indulge in his love for outdoor recreation while remaining away from the public eye. One of the highlights during these outings was Prince Philip's barbecue, where the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh would personally cook and serve delicious meals. Through these encounters, Cameron came to appreciate the royal family's role as a cornerstone of the nation, seeing their commitment to duty, service, and tradition in practice. As a Prime Minister, he not only learned from their wisdom but also discovered the solace and reflection that they provided in times of turbulence and change. Mastering political messaging. The 2015 UK elections saw a significant turnaround for the Conservative Party as they secured a surprise victory with a small but workable overall majority. This transformation was attributed to a disciplined and well-focused messaging strategy. Their mantra, long-term economic plan, highlighted clear objectives of cutting taxes and investing in infrastructure, opposed to the disjointed messages of their opposition, the Labour Party. Furthermore, the Conservatives embraced digital campaigning, spending over £1 million on Facebook ads, tailoring specific content for targeted audiences. This combination of message discipline and modern campaigning ensured their majority win. In the 2010 UK election, the Conservative Party struggled to win the majority vote due to a confusing array of slogans touching upon budget deficit reduction and volunteering. This led to a weak coalition government for 5 years. However, a surprising turnaround took place in 2015 when the Conservatives found success through a refined approach to messaging. The 2015 Conservative campaign focused on a single, powerful message: the long-term economic plan. Though not poetic in essence, it clearly outlined the party's goals: reducing taxes, cutting the deficit, and investing in infrastructure and skills for a prosperous future. This mantra became a defining factor in the party's victory, contrasting Labour Party's lack of focus, as they jumped between concerns like health services, tax evasion, and media empires. The disciplined messaging for the Conservatives not only resonated with the public but also resulted in an effective campaigning strategy. The party was the first in British politics to significantly invest in online targeting and advertising. While their 2010 online budget reached only £150,000, in 2015 they spent a staggering £1.2 million on Facebook ads alone. This was made possible by hiring Jim Messina, Barack Obama's media guru, who developed a sophisticated targeting system that directed personalized messages to voters based on their interests. The night of the election, Prime Minister David Cameron expressed his astonishment at the success of his party's efforts. Despite a slim majority of just 12 seats, it meant the first Conservative majority win since 1992. Cameron addressed the nation from Witney, his home district, promising to govern in the interests of the entire nation. This disciplined messaging, coupled with a modernized online campaign approach, allowed the Conservative Party to achieve victory in 2015. Their ability to focus on vital issues and invest in digital platforms resonated with the public, granting them a majority government. Brexit, unraveling David Cameron's decision. On January 23, 2013, David Cameron made a meaningful promise to address the growing dissatisfaction with Britain's membership in the European Union (EU). Despite his personal conviction that Brexit would be a mistake, he called for a referendum to renegotiate Britain's position within the EU, acknowledging deep-seated skepticism and keeping in line with a long-standing political tradition. While Britain's relationship with the EU has always been somewhat uneasy, David Cameron sought to re-evaluate this alliance by renegotiating the terms of membership before putting it to a public vote in a referendum. Many British people have long been suspicious of the EU, associating their national strength and independence with the World War II history and having no emotional connection to the European project. This wariness translated into preference for pragmatic economic collaboration and apprehension about deepening political union. By 2013, political and economic trends had only accentuated the negative perception of Britain's place within the EU. The financial crisis fueled the EU's push for increased political and economic integration to support the economy and the euro, raising concerns among the British population. Without proper adjustments to Britain's terms of membership, the country could have found itself responsible for propping up the struggling euro through financial bailouts. As a result, public trust in the EU plummeted, with the trust index dropping from -13 to -49% in just 5 years. Although some critics argue that Cameron's call for a referendum was a tactical move to appease the anti-European factions within his Conservative Party, in truth, his decision reflected profound skepticism about the European project across the general population. This sentiment had been a persistent feature in British politics since 2005, with every national-level UK party at some point between 2005 and 2015 committing to an in-out referendum. Manifestos from Labour in 2005, the Liberal Democrats in 2010, and the Greens in 2015 all promised such a referendum. Despite David Cameron's personal belief that EU membership was in the best interest of Britain, he recognized the widespread skepticism among the people and the need to stay consistent with political tradition. It was this combination of factors that ultimately led him to call for a referendum, allowing the citizens of the United Kingdom to have their long-awaited say on Britain's position in the European Union. Tackling immigration in Cameron's EU renegotiation. The renegotiation of Britain's relationship with the EU by David Cameron emphasized the challenging issue of immigration. With the surge in immigration after Eastern European countries joined the EU in 2004, concerns in Britain grew over the influx of newcomers, particularly as it impacted public services and welfare systems. Acknowledging the increasing unease, Cameron attempted to address immigration woes by proposing measures such as sending new arrivals back after 6 months if they didn't find work and requiring them to pay taxes for 4 years before receiving key benefits. Despite being popular with voters, these contested measures raised questions about their legality under EU regulations. Immigration was undeniably a significant aspect of David Cameron's renegotiation efforts with the European Union (EU). When 15 Eastern European countries joined the EU in 2004, the United Kingdom experienced a massive influx of immigrants, raising concerns among citizens. The unrestricted freedom of movement between EU nations, which granted member state citizens the right to live and work in any EU country, was a contentious issue that fueled support for Brexit. The unprecedented number of people arriving in the UK following the EU expansion exceeded government expectations. As Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and others joined the EU, Britain was one of only 3 member nations that opted not to implement a 7-year restriction on freedom of movement for newcomers from Eastern Europe. While the British government had anticipated 13,000 immigrants, the reality was a staggering influx of 1 million individuals. By 2015, net arrivals from the EU peaked at 184,000 per year, a consequence of Britain's healthy and adaptable job market enticing workers from economically struggling EU nations. As communities underwent rapid transformation, concerns over the number of immigrants rose. Furthermore, the non-contributory nature of Britain's welfare system fueled disillusionment, given that new arrivals could claim benefits like unemployment payments almost immediately, even before having worked. As Cameron discovered, 40% of recent EU arrivals claimed welfare, with some recipients securing childcare subsidies for children who had never even set foot in Britain. Recognizing the futility of trying to limit overall immigration numbers, Cameron concentrated on new ideas. He proposed that new arrivals unable to secure employment within 6 months would be required to leave and that they pay taxes for 4 years before qualifying for essential benefits. While 75% of voters supported this measure according to private polling, it technically violated EU law on discrimination grounds. Despite the legal roadblocks, Cameron remained resolute in his goal to convince fellow EU leaders to back these methods to address the increasing concerns on immigration in Britain. Striving for Britain's special status. Between 2015 and 2016, former UK Prime Minister David Cameron embarked on an extensive travel campaign, visiting various European capitals in pursuit of a unique deal for Britain within the European Union (EU). His goal was to establish a special status for the UK, allowing the country to retain its EU membership while gaining more freedom and control over immigration. Despite the opposition from Eastern European leaders, Cameron managed to secure several concessions during the negotiations, ensuring Britain would not be subject to Europe's ever-closer union policy and further loss of independence. While some British citizens deemed the deal insufficient, it marked the beginning of an uphill battle for Cameron in the quest to maintain Britain's place in the EU. Cameron's relentless travel, which often saw him attending multiple international engagements in just 2 days, underlined his dedication to securing a special status for Britain. His dealings with Eastern European leaders proved difficult, as they objected to any changes in welfare policies that would impact the lives of their citizens residing in the UK. Despite this, Cameron insisted that if Britain were forced to choose between EU membership without immigration control or leaving the bloc, they would opt to exit. Months of negotiations culminated in a significant deal that granted Britain exemptions from Europe's commitment to ever-closer union and reassured the nation that it would not lose any further independence to the EU. While some skeptics argued that Cameron should have sought more concessions, German Chancellor Angela Merkel assured him that no other concessions would have been granted by the EU, particularly regarding restrictions on freedom of movement. Cameron stood by the deal he achieved, but there was little time for celebration. Instead, he had to brace himself for a challenging electoral battle as Britain determined its future within the EU. Grappling with post-truth politics. Europe, 2016, politics was veering into a new, post-truth era, where lies and emotional appeals overtook rational argument. Former UK Prime Minister David Cameron found himself trying to convey essential economic benefits of remaining in the European Union, EU, while the Leave campaign fed on populist sentiment and manipulated facts. Though Cameron believed his side would prevail, the tide was turning, and events unfolded in a manner he could not foresee. When Cameron stood before a Typhoon fighter jet at a factory in northern England, he passionately proclaimed that EU membership fostered cooperation in security matters and made British holidays more affordable. Indeed, he asserted that UK membership in the EU made Britain stronger, safer, and better off in Europe. But, this rational argument could not withstand the surge of populist sentiment and the post-truth political landscape that was emerging. With freedom of movement, the Leave campaign declared that 5 million extra people would enter Britain by 2030. Their attention-grabbing messaging targeted Turkey, raising fears through posters announcing that Turkey and its 76 million-strong population would soon join the EU, subsequently leading to mass immigration into the UK. This was a flagrant distortion of the truth. Although there were ongoing discussions about Turkey's potential EU membership, there were no immediate prospects of it happening. Furthermore, every EU member state, including Britain, had the right of veto. Matters took a more concerning turn when Penny Mordaunt, a Brexit-supporting cabinet member, blatantly lied on television by denying Britain's right to veto Turkey's EU membership. This post-truth rhetoric resonated more with people's emotions than the rational arguments put forth by the Remain campaign. Cameron attempted to counter this by emphasizing how the EU had secured peace across the continent. He powerfully spoke of European graveyards as a silent testament to the lengths taken to preserve regional peace and questioned whether jeopardizing that stability was worth the risk. However, Eurosceptic media outlets mocked Cameron's sentiment, accusing him of predicting a Third World War. As the campaign drew to a close, Cameron remained optimistic. Influential figures, including Barack Obama, British trade unions, the head of the Church of England, and former MI5 and MI6 chiefs, shared a single opinion: Britain was better off within the EU. Convinced that victory was near, Cameron began to imagine his future endeavours. However, disappointment loomed ahead. The night Cameron left. On the night of the referendum, David Cameron and his loved ones watched the results unfold at 10 Downing Street, initially confident of a Remain victory. But as the night progressed, reality dawned, and Cameron's 12-year-old daughter Nancy sensed defeat. By 2:30 a.m., Cameron knew it was over, and the consequences of the surprising result were not only significant for Britain but also meant the end of his tenure as Prime Minister. Although he regrets the decision of the people and the subsequent division it caused, Cameron does not regret holding the referendum. He believes Britain can navigate its new role as a neighbour to the EU, fostering robust trade and security cooperation. The referendum night was filled with anticipation, and Cameron, together with his wife and colleagues, gathered at 10 Downing Street, awaiting the results. They started off confident, but when Newcastle delivered a closer outcome than anticipated, followed by Sunderland's resounding Leave victory, their nerves began to fray. Even Cameron's 12-year-old daughter Nancy sensed it. With a candid observation, she told her father they were losing. As the leader of the Remain campaign, there were immense consequences riding on this vote for Cameron. Though he publicly asserted that he wouldn't resign if they lost, he was aware that such a defeat would render his position untenable. Tasked with negotiating a departure deal for Britain, he couldn't continue in good faith as the face of Remain. The next morning, the Camerons faced the nation. With Samantha, who had drunk a gin to calm her nerves, by his side, Cameron announced his intention to stabilize the country in the wake of the vote but acknowledged that he would not lead Britain to its new future. After, he simply returned inside and cooked himself some breakfast. Since leaving office, Cameron has focused on advocating for causes that resonate with him, like volunteering, dementia, and foreign aid. Although he keeps an eye on political developments, the aftermath of the referendum weighs on him too. The division and uncertainty generated by the 2016 vote left him saddened, but he stands by his decision to hold the referendum, asserting that the public deserved a say on their relationship with Europe. Cameron still recognizes the legitimacy of the choice to leave the EU. The deep-rooted issues driving British Euroscepticism persist, and he argues that Britain can exist outside the EU without severing vital connections. By fostering a strong trading partnership and collaborating on security, he envisions a transformed relationship where a once unhappy tenant becomes a satisfied neighbor.
For the Record offers a fascinating insight into David Cameron's personal story and his journey through British politics, touching on his accomplishments and challenges as a leader. We have seen Cameron's humble beginnings and determination to grow both personally and politically. Through his account, we understand his passion for modernizing the Conservative Party and taking steps towards building a more diverse and inclusive Britain, despite the ups and downs of his decision to hold the Brexit referendum and the consequences that followed. Cameron shares his experiences with candor, revealing a new perspective on his life, beliefs, and aspirations for the future of the United Kingdom.